Hello, Babayeros. Babayeros sees. I donated that. And Bayeros, if you say Bayeros, we're supposed to go, because in other words, we're gonna need another word for the BS word too. For example, a swear, because we need to say things emphatically relative to a breaching method that each is capable of discerning. But other things, others ourselves, where are shown to people that they need to force, trick, persuade to blame it on that. Otherwise, that body is sensed. There was a YouTube channel, for example, called Judging Freedom, with a Judge Napolitano, a very wise man. You know, in other words, and very educated in legal terms, for example, ones that me and millions of us don't know about. For example, and leaders A through Z, they know about things that millions of us don't know about. But nature shows us to appreciate what you know about that other people don't know about, and paying attention to where and how nature showing us each individual is being shown something. In other words, the way it's using a system, or if we could agree to use positive and negative, abridged from how it communicates to our words, and with them or not. And we have kept it not. We have kept ourselves systems. Technically, millions of us know that we don't hunger and thirst to to get to the store and get a plastic bottle of water, to have little particles of things. When cheaper than, in other words, there's a difference between needing tax money and needing things. And originally and still, in other words, the identity, the agencies make confessions vertically and horizontally. Forgiveness is because they are only capable of that. Otherwise, that body is sensed, even if it is a group, even if it is everyone together. This is a method that employed names A through Z as countries, blaming other things, others, or selves for what a breaching method caused, and then defending that. And relative to that, increasingly incapable of affording to be, let alone to protract, short words with anybody, even if that body is in majority, even if it is everyone, with convictions proper. The houses were designed from America to Russia to Ukraine before America's founders were born, with slavery entrenched, northern colonies, southern colonies, sickly distinctly. How sickly, not distinctly, was a value to everyone, to not be left out, but it was the breaching method employed exceptions for that, while it had maintained roles with itself. It had maintained roles consciously with hyper additional names and apparent and actual motivations for hurting other things, others, or selves. And more importantly, relative to defenses of quality aspects / qualities in nature as criminal insidiousness / hypercriminal insidiousness. I am not a lawyer. Nature itself shows us that witch trials, regardless of who made them up, what it was made up for, what extent was made up, witch trials were about that torture, extortion, slavery method entrenched in cities, in northern and southern colonies before America's founders were born, to affect cheapening nature, torture, extortion, and slavery method that had already been sustained roles for self-value too, where that body was sensed. You know, when I say self-value, I mean where people are speaking about things like positive or negative, things like power, black peoples. Power comes from the Constitution on the bridge, and why and how. We are told not just that we have rights that are too numerous to list. They're too numerous to have to list. When did the witch trial branches of government and foreign share here and there have integrity? There are certain type of victim / hyper victim. If you try to treat them like that, they start quoting their money, etc. Certain type of victim / hyper victim, tactically pseudo educated. The best campuses and the worst campuses, the difference of that too is employed by this preaching method. Black pupils. It is time. In other words, so we need a nature of reliefs for all individuals, including individuals as leaders, because nature uses the order of the finite details, or the order of the finite, and the difference of that relative to its 1/3/5 parts, where it gives us means to check our answers and to know what's going to cause evolution's fruits, gifts, and means out of nowhere. For example, where we are fact treatment nature. We are here where nature has a special difference with Earth. But that special difference is forced from here, forced space nature transfer, nature being the extent of its identity that we could discern. And wherever we have an extent of the identity of the hypersimultaneous we could discern, it comes with its complete identity of relationship to itself, however, and the value of that 3 ways equally increasing as value. And nature shows us that is not just more probably how all physical matter was generated. And it's look how the other species bodies have 2 eyes. They have quality, aspects, nature. Even the bugs have a consciousness that is shared. In other words, we are being shown that we are distinct from other species bodies, but we are also non-distinct from them. And we are simultaneous. We are simultaneous with them. But there are other identities of scientific relativity / hyperrelativity when we pay attention to it. That shows that it is also per what is not them nor us. It is, and that's again, the appreciation of this is to the extent we can discern its complete body, like one of those ways simultaneously. And that comes / hypersimultaneous, because it got 3 distinct identities of relativity to itself, where it has sequence, distinct, just like in other words, you have a distinct identity of sequence relativity, a value of the relativity of your to your right foot to your left foot when you're walking, but it is also non-distinct. It is simultaneous, but further / hypersimultaneous. This is what English was revealed to teach. This preaching method has employed a differences racket, where it employed all to roles with its use /s of all location /s. Every single place the human species body has a body. It knew that nature would continually demonstrate to humanity increasingly a human fact treatment nature breaching method was and is being demonstrated to us by nature itself, relative to the suits and ties too, the counters to it and the exceptions, leaving and having left out how the suburbs were designed tactically to nature to cause negative value nature progressions acts in nature, leaving out how anyone who denies that has inherent to, active to, and progressive to their logic, has reliance upon quality aspects of fact treatment nature as criminal disease / hypercriminal disease. We cannot understate this, black pupils. We have that and how we have black pupils, whites of eyes, and this has been left out within how the breaching method assigned that to be left out, or that body to be sensed, including if it is a majority of people, including if it is everyone. There is another name with A through Z. Thank you. So we'll examine vertical and horizontal confessions, because then when people refer to it, they're making fake communications between people. One of the things that is manifest at locations, areas, and states everywhere the species body is a fact treatment nature, identity, theft, fraud, slander, styles, relative to the relativity of how the Native American / hyper Native American, not just the Native American, system as the value of the Constitution unabridged, and why and how we have rights that are too numerous to have to list them. This breaching method employed also, see, we have the same colorized, different colorized at the same time. We have the body of the hyper simultaneous, hyper invisible, but still discernible there. You know, and again, while it's showing us too, the other species' bodies have two eyes, distinctly, but also non-distinctly, simultaneously, but also, again, / hyper simultaneously. See, but people are pretending things offensively are debatable that are not. Then they have to hide that. Then they are shown means and needs to get away with that. Relative to really what caused murders in Hartford, Connecticut, and ones in Wethersfield that appear to have no connections. There are people next to the schools, intercities, who have connections to each other, and with wire crime acts and mail crime acts and whole predicate acts methods. I'm not even a lawyer, but whole predicate acts methods relative to the vertical and horizontal confessions. There are the breaching method showed and shows the identities of the law when they're fishing, when they use words like CIA, when they use differences like CIA, judges, prosecutors, they're forging names, switching names roles. And their difference when they pretend such is debatable relative to ourselves. They have lawyers of the FBI and of the Wethersfield police with criminally foreign influence, but simultaneously tactically delusions wrought, readings of statutes, precedents, sequence shifts, planting evidences, collusion / S roles. Names that have been speaking about crimes for as long as we can remember, before our founders were born. They had already been sustained roles with whole predicate acts with facts methods. This breaching method had roles, crazy slavery laws against everyone, syntactically manifest. I learned in notes at Central Connecticut State University that there were meetings, and if anyone was found to have been discussing or even heard someone discussing about building infrastructure outside of internationally monitored meetings, again, relative to and as collusion / S with the slavery entrenched before America's founders were born, northern colonies, southern colonies. That is worse than just obfuscated. They have what our founders communicated for us to understand about that replaced. They have their words used, leaving out what they declassified, and self-valued roles with it. That is an employment by the breaching method, which is completely syntactically manifest. Collusion and nature manifest. You know, when did the sciences have integrity? In other words, but see, there's a certain type of victim / hyper victim who had replaced what nature itself gave little kids the means to discern. But you guys changed their words, and you guys, or you sense them. Each age of fact should be nature. This is also some of the reasons that we need to understand the relativity of vertical and horizontal confessions. Many tied to Wethersfield mayors have been recorded, sought me out as strangers to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm their involvements with identity theft, fraud, slanders, various natures of federal evidences, crimes, and as collusions with a whole bunch of different countries, and overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and names that next to news at the same time. All natures of programs and systems. See, people speak about jobs pretending they can't realize exceptions. Our founders communicated it to us to understand how economies at countries A through Z, individually grouped and all together, everyone is against America because they were used remotely. And America is about the Constitution on a bridge. So everyone is for us at the same time, but no one understands America because America has not gotten on a bridge yet. Because America has had it entrenched below America's feet, deeper than the foundation / S of countries A through Z, and greater than it. The breaching methods employment / S of fact, treatment, nature, quality / qualities, aspects / aspects in nature. This trinity is manifest with any subject finite, with anything finite, grouped and together three ways as its own body of relativity to itself / hyperrelativity. It is why and is how the participle natures are manifest grouped, the present participle and the past participle. It is why and how time is by relativity with that / forever nature, a distinct identity of forever nature. This is how the ancients taught English, a grouped language, because nature wants us to simultaneously communicate and not to. It wants us to simultaneously value the species body bond, individual body, unity of humanity's individual bodies as the individuality itself, of itself. See, we have other pretended practical, having been pretended practical. Ron Adams is one of the ones recorded involved with a Joshua Julian and other people with the CIA and with the FBI and with New Britain Superior Court, Hartford Courts, and Connecticut District Court, and former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed intercities predicate acts at and next to campuses leading up to the World Trade Center attack, in that attack context and since. And there was another name involved. For example, this is relative to where and to how, even though a breaching method is of scientific value, clearer than day to all. If we start addressing this, it brings a quality of fact treatment nature that takes notice. Meanwhile, there are serious things going on in the world, but we have postures of seriousness. And we have narratives and natures regarding the motivations for that are only capable of leaving out the breaching methods, roles, and use / S of that originally and still. Otherwise, that body is sent to black pupils. We will not leave the hyperscope where people have pretended there's integrity that had spoke for each of the sciences. The beginning of the Old Testament comes with the part that says, only defend right here. No one even knows about it. All the passions in the world that they defend these books with. They use their knowledge of good and evil of it, about the subjects in it, the names in it, out of sequence. Then they want to debate people like that style. It's the principal thing. It says, only right here. Only defend right here. And so with their defenses, they have delusions too that are spoken. But rather than be able to solve this by having experts on such, those locations like Hartford Hospital has been fabricating conversations with people, doctors forging other doctors' names. They have roles with foreign and domestic military. They have roles with Russians and American and Ukraine with fire departments. Fear God! Fear God! Get them on paper, one name in sequence with the Wethersfield police forging and switching names and pretending it's personal. Don't pretend it's personal. The police recorded, confess. Wethersfield police are recorded communicating that consciously pretend it's personal when people say things bad about them because they know they did bad things. They forge and switch names, fake conversations with me, and at the police station and over the phone. They're changing phone records and digital. That's why they had a principal upskirt nature involved with way worse digital crimes with them. Increasingly, people at and tied to conjunctions of the Berlin Turnpike and Route 3 and 2 Route Highway and Hangdog Lane sought me out as complete strangers to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm collusion / S with people who went to campuses I went that I never even had conversations with. They have connections to each other, putting planting evidences, then having careers that have been used criminally for and influenced since they were little kids. Something personal too. If they wanted to pretend that on paper, it would be demonstrated. People from off the campuses are putting us to fake and changed communications with each other, fake completely fake ties to strangers and completely fake natures of ties to strangers. Little tricks to do this consciously, increasingly at parks and next to parks, with the mayor's involvements, Weathersfield town offices, and the Weathersfield Community Center, and names on all sides of it. Increasingly, intercities have roles with some untimely deaths and timed use /s of it, as people remote uses of the sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase, of Judge Napolitano, of standing the branches of government's names, A through Z, individual grouped together, their differences. These are people involved with some black KKK-themed, Latino-themed fabricating evidences together, sequence shifts with interbranch locations, individually grouped and together, used remotely, criminally foreign influence. Forgiveness, because we can't put everyone in jail, but we can force attention to detail. We know the order of the finite, the way nature tells us, hypernative pure. It shows us the difference between president / chief. Someone tries to bring that up, a whole bunch of evil and delusions jumps in, or in the straight ignorance that is traceable directly. There's a right hyper-forensic trail of its tracing into the campuses, and the names next to it being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. A whole bunch of judges, doctors, and their patients, and criminals and workers at Whiting Forensics, for example. And then with state police that way, and then further, because that difference is also used. Also, state police families interstate. These are increasingly people involved with Ray Reynolds as teachers, Ray Cololo as teachers, as educators, with the intelligence community, foreign and domestic, and overt criminal enterprises, private ones at the same time, and news. And they jump in with, oh, come on. They're forcing equality. That's why they're switching names into branch. They criminally say that people should sue them, knowing that they're switching names and forgetting on paper, and they're changing the subject, leaving out what came up first. I've been asking you for a response since I was a kid. You guys have straight up identity theft, fraud, slanders, increasingly tied to mayors too. No, fake communications with their parents, the kids, increasingly. The difference between overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the identities of the interbranch, the intelligence tied to them. When did they have integrity, black pupils? There have been rules of predicate acts methods recorded. There have been rules with use /s consciously self-value of the sense and sensibilities of Judge Napolitano not fathoming, and or not enough. And in other words, please, Fox News, do what's right. Please get them on paper, one name in sequence, and be honest about what you think about my behavior. Because I begged you guys to get on paper, one name in sequence. The courts and the police forms and their sources, including the interbranch, they have rules of wire crime and mail crime methods. And they attach me to fake conversations with the police as a kid, now as an adult, and at the police station. And the kids they did have going on to the police station, they made it look like they brought up their roles with criminal enterprises and with private ones, and with these names next to the campuses, planting evidences, fake ties, fake natures of ties to people, falsified police reports, roles. Plus, they stack names and pretend it means something. They also have me in fake conversations about saying everyone's evil, because these are a whole bunch of people together, intercities, connected, the intelligence community. Wait till you see their delusions and the whole bunch of natures of corruption, whole bunch of names at Hartford Hospital who have wire crimes in the same houses and digital crimes replacing the untimely death rolls they have with a Robert Rodriguez and a proven principal upskirt nature. Involved also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with racketeering with the news locations and the people that put him away in prison, torturing him to leave that out. They're leaving out his confessions to me. I want a response to his confessions. Also, it was recorded too that Michael Emmett is one of the ones, and there are further people with the name Riley too, associated with the town offices and with New Britain, Connecticut, intercities. These are people all along Route 175 who have been planting evidences. People tied to a Klotz family and a DeMoro family and a Kerr family and a Cololo family and a Smith family. near me involved with the police confessions and demonstrations, then they're lying about what brought it up. That's why they're forging and switching names rules. They're planting evidence on all sides of people's houses and all sides of their houses, where how they're having their show needs to do that because they were already used remotely with all sides of criminal and civil cases and the courts themselves. That's in the difference of that was is used. Like in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers in Manhattan. These are names at the World Trade Center next to spots next to it, and in the Ninth Circuit Court. Both sides of that case, their sources and the court recorded involved with predicate acts against me, with the cops forging and switching names intercity, pretending that means that they're illegitimate because they're cops. They're involved with more child defenders, leaders of the kids. They're involved with ones years apart, proven first for having been forced, and more. They're involved with all kinds of people at Hartford Hospital have roles of wire crimes and Wethersfield Police confessions regarding the name Colo and their roles switching names with retired police chiefs involved. A police chief Cintron. I don't know the other one. The one or more years ago before that involved with him through his career. A police chief Cintron has roles with predicate acts on all sides of my house with a whole bunch of names from other areas too. These were ones with the courts. These are a bunch of courts involved with the Cololo house and with a Bob Chase and a Phil Cololo with Whiting Forensics. Also with a Joshua Julian involved with predicate acts on my street and with Facebook per him. I never saw him on my street in my life. I never had a class with him, and I never partied with him per his language. He has roles with people involved with Koreans, like a whole bunch of people involved with Koreans, including an airline pilot. I don't even know his name. I was kind of rude. I was rude to him on Facebook consciously because I'm trying to show them they better get onto paper with these crackpots and with the family members of judges, how they're involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and now they're pretending they're legitimate with acting professors. They have the departments of the campuses individually grouped in together, criminally foreign influence. There is a Rick C.M. Faglione that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed there are medical offenders of kids planting evidences at Quinnipiac University and at Central Connecticut State University, and with a Fred Gruzet, who is involved with sequence shifts and predicate acts on my street with an O'Brien family and a Cololo family with wire crimes and falsified police reports with them and overt criminal enterprises involved, including people with Afghan leaders of kids involved with Los Solitos at Zion Street, associated with the people next to the corrections offices and the judicial branch offices, collusions with the Cololo and his cousins, interstates and internationally, with the World Trade Center attack, too, with the DeMoro also said that was their cousin, too. I only know them recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, making about their educators and their campuses' roles with predicate acts and with predicate acts methods, which this is about Black people's rights of lives. We don't have to be lawyers. If one of the identities of law, if they deny that this is about a predicate acts with facts method, how that was left out too, that's still about that. They're only capable of it. Their use/s of that. In other words, they want to speak about their differences the way the breaching method knew they would have to. Then it shows more and more of them how to get to blame where it made them blame on other things other than themselves. It shows other people to do the same thing. It keeps a style. He keeps a whole bunch of styles, arrays of people that look like there's difference. The suits and ties, the counters, and the exceptions. They can be. There's traced uses of their quality, fact-treating nature, aspects of fact-treating nature as criminal insidiousness, positives and negatives treatments, collusion/s, and names or identity treatment to get over on correlation nature/hypercorrelation nature. Identity is run by /hypercorrelation. The identity of hypercorrelation. That is not our species body. It's not the other species bodies. but it is anyway. And it's complete system, or it's a special difference in our own / our own. It is forced from here, forced space nature transfer, lethal hadiths. So you guys need to pretend the things that are debatable that aren't. You guys need to pretend that that the differences of or integrity needs to be pretended where it is not supposed to be pretended. Then you take collusions. Oh, that's what it says. Well, let's see. Well, solve it in the courts. Get the courts on paper. Before Judge Napolitano left Fox News, and where and how he left it, they hid with what is actually recorded here. There are remote uses of journalists and of their family members associated with the spots next to Fox Connecticut News, associated with their campuses. Increasingly, there's people with the name Perone and Kerr and Violet involved at and next to religious spots and campuses and parks, planting evidences with former mayors and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and their educators, where they're putting fake things in databases and then acting off campuses tied to it, putting fake motivations, whole wire crime acts and methods. So there are people with the businesses at the corner of Southstein Highway and 2-Route Highway and Weathersfield Pizza is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by Weathersfield police involved with wire crime acts with them. Also with judges and prosecutors, family members, and their roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases. And new is putting the same sequence shifts, predicate acts roles, fake ties, fake natures of ties to people of all ages. The same ones who had further roles with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, first forced and time use / S of that. They also have roles working at the elderly homes and locations next to them are involved, like 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike and spots next to the state capitol. I mean, and the state judicial branch offices and the state corrections offices, which is also one of the spots, like as an exception, or next to the 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike. And these are people, increasingly people tied to judges, family members involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. People with the name Spada are increasingly people time collusions, planting evidences with the ones with the wild crimes, with the courts, and with the Weathersfield police, with child offenders, leaders of kids, and people that went to my grammar school that I never saw in my grammar school at all. Ones that had different teachers that were in my grade. And they tried, it's recorded how they try to make fake exceptions because their roles with the vertical and horizontal part. In other words, some of these people are straight, like as a Leahy family. I never had a conversation with them in my life. Hartford Hospitals confessing, recording with them, confirming, demonstrating their roles with the Leahy family and various courts, judges, and prosecutors and their family members with predicate acts on my street. And planting evidences at and next to campuses with them, and predicate acts roles and predicate acts methods roles. In other words, these are also, the difference of the corruption there or next to it is also used, haven't been used. So Central Connecticut State University and other Connecticut campuses had roles with the World Trade Center attack and World Trade. Originally and still, our founders communicated other about world trade than has been communicated before. We have their communications changed in our face. We have self-valued roles that are discernible, using their use / S of their words, leaving out what they declassified about that, leaving out what nature itself declassified, it shows us about that, leaving out, much. And pretending other. So Sandy Hook campuses is also with FBI planting evidences, fake motivations, roles, with their pretending to be against, what's his name? Alex Jones. And Alex Jones, too, forbidden, he didn't respond. Mandated law, when someone brings up predicate acts with kids or the World Trade Center, you don't change or fake what they say. let alone self-valuing, getting away with it, means to get away with that. That's what you guys have been doing. So WFSB had roles with World Trade Center predicate acts with names leading up to it in that context and since, including people from Saudi Arabia, that both Americans in Saudi Arabia and WFSB was forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded to collude with. This was simultaneously collusions with lawyers of retired Wethersfield police chiefs and the intimate ties to them and their family members. There's a police chief, Cintron, who's communicating. I never had a verbal conversation, but they picked me conversations with me as a kid. Now as an adult, they've been putting fake transcripts and databases roles with the FBI and other police departments involved with this Khalil O'Brien and their family members with phone crime methods. Where they also with the D. Simone. There are people with the name D. Simone in Newington Police Departments, Hartford Police Departments, Rocky Hill, and Wethersfield through time, with the Khalil house and the Smith family involved with Afghan leaders and kids, and people next to Trinity College and next to Central Connecticut State University. They've been planting evidences with the family members of judges and prosecutors and people associated with and as a Rick Cianfaglione. He said also that Paul Zano was involved with it. I never saw them together. No, Paul Zano is also recorded. They tried to make it look like I went into the Wethersfield High School with him, like we were friends or something like that. They were planting things with him and with judges and prosecutors. It has something to do with his roles interstates with the intelligence community. People with the name Zano and people at UConn are involved with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes and fake transcripts and ties and fake natures of ties between kids and all ages at and next to Hartford Hospital. These are people involved. Through the years, there was a DeMorro's Market and Iola's Kitchen and a My Own House are one's collusions with names next to the campuses, intercities, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with their educators too. Sequence shifts. All sides of criminal and civil cases roles with the news. These are people next to the news locations too. The difference of that, the corruption at the news locations next to it, or driving by, still watching their news reports. They've been planting evidences with news stories. Then they need to hide that. Where and how anyone had the integrity and relative to where and how anyone could be motivated for so long to pretend integrity spoke for the law. Integrity never spoke for the law, black people, period. So there's a Ron Adams here. He's been saying all kinds of things that are criminal to say, like pretend someone's a lawyer. Pretend, in other words. They also had the YouTube algorithm do that. Because of the little cheap tricks they do to bring people before courts that were shown they need to hide live progressions. New Britain Superior Court has family members further involved with more child offenders, leaders of the kids. And there are more leaders of the schools who planted evidences next to the schools and at the schools with the news and with medical offenders. There's a Leahy family that has roles with delaying how people come into the Highcrest School, for example, because their roles planting evidence, fake ties, fake nature ties with their kids, etc. The differences of their ages. They have words with they have syntax regarding adult and immaturity. Together, collusions with the people with the wire crimes and mail crimes, falsified police reports with the Wethersfield police, and the names next to the campuses, intercities connected. Dear God. I never saw Lombardo on my street in my life, too. They've been putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me with Lombardo family members as ones involved with the security and training the kids, criminally foreign influence, with the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, pretending that has to what they're doing with the fire departments, the military, foreign and domestic. There's even a Kuwaiti general and his family members involved with some KKK, black theme, Latino theme, interreligious spots theme, roles with the prisons theme, collusion /S with the names on my street. Then they want to talk about their motivation, everything. They get them on paper, one name and sequence, Judge Napolitano. Let's do what's right. Vaccines. Let's prepare to fight. They get to get them on paper, one name and sequence. Let's go. Let's go. Fake branches. Paul, build wall. Disbelieves. Come on, Judge Napolitano. Someone to ask Judge Napolitano, what are you doing? Leaving